So now we're going to go to Littleton, Colorado, and we're going to hear from Doug Clark, the mayor of the city of Littleton, and Jim Woods, the director of facilities operations for the Littleton Public Schools. Mayor, thank you for being with us.
Certainly. Our journey began in the late 1980s when a major employer, Martin Marietta Aerospace, cut the workforce by 7,000 jobs as a result of federal cuts in defense spending. About the same time, another national company, Marathon Oil, moved its research laboratory to Houston, taking 450 high-paying jobs with it. This, of course, wasn't the first time that Littleton had experienced a cycle. My wife, who grew up in Littleton, tells stories about when she was younger and Martin would go through layoffs that all her friends would leave town because their fathers had gotten laid off, and she would drive down the roads with her family and see all the vacant homes. But in the 1980s, the city had participated in a state-administered recruiting program that was not producing promising results. The city council asked the city staff to find a new direction for economic development, and that new direction from the council was the start of economic gardening. Over the past 25 years, the program has evolved based on the following core principles. Number one, trying to recruit companies to relocate from another part of the country with tax incentives is a zero-sum game, and the odds against long-term success are enormous. Number two, private entrepreneurs are the engines of sustainable economic growth. Number three, local government can develop the tools and skills to assist entrepreneurs. And number four, focusing on local companies creates a strong sense of fairness and equity in the community. The program that we have in place today is the result of a lot of experimentation, and we expect that it will continue to change into the future. The generic idea of assisting small businesses as economic development is of course not new. There are numerous federal, state, and local programs that provide such services. The three key innovative components in which distinguishes the Littleton Economic Gardening Program are the decision by the City Council to reject recruiting and place its confidence in local business, the depth and sophistication of the analytical tools we have developed to assist local businesses, and the strategic focus on stage 2 emerging growth companies while continuing to serve any business that requests services. We think there are also at least 3 relevant measures of effectiveness for the economic gardening program. Over a 20-year period, comparative data show that our job growth has consistently outperformed national, Colorado, and Denver metro area job growth. In 2005, a Small Business Administration report found that job growth in Littleton was twice that of the Denver metro area, 3 times that of the state of Colorado, and 6.5 times that of the U.S. During that same period of time, our population growth was half that of the metro area. Even during the 2008 crash, a number of companies in our program have continued to add jobs each year, and the trust and the confidence expressed in the city by the local business community is an indication of the effectiveness. Given the severity of the current economic climate, job growth is clearly the top public policy issue in the United States today. In the report just released by President Obama's Council on Jobs and Effectiveness, contains a specific set of recommendations for nurturing high-growth enterprises, which we believe reflects the significance of the program that we've been doing for 20 years. While there are large national issues beyond the control of local government, which affects the economic health, such as deficit, tax policies, and investments in education and infrastructure, economic gardening can give every state and local government in the country the ability to have some impact on their future. Littleton is a small community of about 40,000 residents. Our program is staffed with 4 people and an annual budget of about $570,000, which is about 1% of the city's annual operating budget. We believe that the tools and concepts of economic gardening can be adapted to almost any size community. We are aware of at least 13 states and 30 local communities that have established some version of this program. They range from the small size of Grenada, Mississippi, to states such as Michigan and even Oregon. In closing, We're honored to have been invited to participate, and Mr. Woods and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
I've got a question. You're done, right? Your data about job growth, your city is a suburb of Denver, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we've got data about you compared it to the Denver metro area. Do you know if you were to subtract out the city of Denver and rural areas, and just to compare it to other suburban cities around Denver, do you know what the comparison would be in job growth?
You mean if we were to compare our suburban city with other suburban cities in Denver?
Yes.
No, I don't have the answer to that. I'm sorry.
I have a somewhat related question. I note that you served in 2008 and in 2009 about 430 businesses per year directly through this office. Do you know how many jobs those businesses created in those 2 years?
We think we've created, specifically from those jobs, we've consistently created around 600 jobs a year in that period of time. So we've had no net job loss in 2008, 2009, 2010.
Of those 430 businesses.
We don't keep a scorecard by the specific ones. I can name 4 or 5 off the top of my head that probably would reach at least 100 jobs over that period.
What I'm trying to get a sense of is to what extent the direct intervention and help that you provided and technical assistance to the specific businesses that you serve produced a specific number of jobs. Do you have a sense of
We
that?
don't have that data. Mayor, did you want to comment on that?
Well, that's a good question because we're relying on the Department of Labor statistics for job growth. But if our population grows at half of the rate of the metro area, if we're the only ones in the metro area that uses economic gardening, at least up until very recently, and if our job growth is twice that of the metro area, there has to be something that's happening in Littleton. There's either sunspots, or Littleton is a very popular place, or there's some abnormal thing that's taking place because Littleton's job growth is exceeding that of our immediate neighbors, even though our population growth is slower than that of all of our immediate neighbors. So something is happening.
I really think you've done a marvelous job. I mean, obviously, it's been very successful, and it's good to know that you've had this in operation now for a number of years, and therefore the success has been notable. It's held up, I gather, during this recessionary period. You've, in comparison with communities near you, have you managed to maintain that record?
We have, yes, sir, and that's what I was commenting in response to Mr. Weisbrod's, is that we don't track everybody in the program because we don't know what they're going to do specifically, but we have had net job growth every year during the recession. I'll just give you a couple of examples. There's a couple of small companies. One manufactures an ankle bracelet. It's called alcohol monitoring, and they do a satellite technology combined with a chemistry to monitor court-mandated alcohol testing. They have hired every year during the recession. So we've got a number of those little innovative companies that have niches that we know have hired, are looking for people, and have hired every year during the recession.
Mm-hmm.
There'll always be alcoholics.
Pardon? Yeah, yes, ma'am. I think this is
Growth
what
industry.
we understand. This is what nailed Lindsay Lohan.
I had one quick follow-up on this, and that is that you only have 4 people in this department. You're dealing with over 400 companies, as I understand it. So this is not hands-on. You are basically making tools available to the people in those individual businesses rather than sort of mentoring them in terms of...
That's a very good question, Congressman. Let me say, those 400 are really, that's everything from somebody who walks in, and the mayor made a point of saying that, well, we focus on these stage 2 companies, which people like the Kaufman Foundation out in Kansas City, I don't know if you know Carl Schramm and those people out there, focusing on these emerging companies. We're a small community, so anybody who wants to walk in and even open up a cookie store on Main Street is going to get some assistance from us. I mean, that's just the reality of local politics. But what the deeper consulting The tools like the search engine optimization, the deep research that we've done for some companies really kind of gets customized to maybe a smaller percentage, maybe 100, or 40 or 50 of those. So, be it, I have to report to the mayor, we have to serve everybody, everybody that comes in, and that's in that 400. But the real crux of the program, the very deep consulting, is really targeted at these entrepreneurial stage
Ones that
2
really show
companies.
promise.
Yes, sir.
Other questions?
Can you give us an example? So say with the company that manufactures the bracelet to detect alcohol use, what kind of aid, what kind of assistance, what kind of consulting did you provide?
Let me just give you a couple of our case studies. In this instance, this particular company, they monitor, their customers are corrections courts all across the country. So we subscribe to 14 commercial databases and have a full-time researcher, so we can go in and get the name and address of almost every correctional facility, every court in the country, and help them with their national marketing. I'll give you another example. We have a small company called ADAES. They've developed a technique for removing mercury from coal emissions. This is a big, big deal in coal, and so our team put together, we did a huge amount of research on what the EPA was doing, in fact, we're trying to help them break into the Chinese market. So this customized consulting that I talked about for these stage 2 companies, we get very deep into their business model. They learn to trust us, and then we help them with search engine optimization. You can have a very great website, but if you know the algorithms to get you on Google, if you don't have the right keywords, if you get buried on page 30 on a Google search instead of page 2, you're toast. So we do an iterative number of consulting with these small companies, and they're these little niche companies that are really innovating.
Other questions?
Are Martin Marietta and Marathon still active in Littleton?
Martin Marietta is now Lockheed Martin, and they still have a facility out there. Marathon sold their site and returned completely back to Houston, 5, 6 years ago?
Well, it was very inspiring what you've done.
was.
Really, really
Thank you.
terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.